being recorded.
Why don't we go through the latest updates?
Okay. Shall I start with the data dictionary and resource catalog first, or just going to configuration management? Can you hear me?
Yes, data dictionary resource catalog sounds good.
Okay. Okay, so this is the list of the dictionaries we have. Will be having. Again, let's explain each box or the screen elements. The same sequence we have previous in the package list. We will be having each dictionary or each element as in books with some details about it. The most important details we need to know from this list. In each list, in each box, we have here the icon of the type of the data we have. If it's from ATT or from OpenConfig, as we have it in here in the tabs, we use it as a filter too. Next to it, we have the name of the dictionary, and below it we have, of course, the same about the date and it's about of the last modification and by whom. Below we have the tags of this dictionary. And of course, the actions are clone and add and delete. And by clicking on each box, we will go directly to the view mode of the information of this dictionary. And in the same screen, we can again filter the dictionaries with selecting the tags, like in here. But of course, the tags of the dictionary, not the packages. Okay. Let's go to view. Here we have the same information we have in the previous screen, but we added the date of creation and by which user. And also we have the actions action buttons in here. Below it, we have the metadata and the sources. And of course, we can switch to editor mode from this button. Sorry. Here we have the metadata of this dictionary. And below it, we have the sources. Here we have the sources list. And here we have all options we can select to add it to this list. We can sorry, Yuri, I forgot to add the option to drag and drop, but I'll add it later. The icon that indicate that we can drag any source from this list. Button here we can select one source or multiple sources, or we can select them all and add it directly to the list by this button. Here is a view of an opened source that shows the code. And of course, from this button, we can delete this source from the list, and all other source in here are collapsed, and user can open whatever and it will show the same like this one above.
One question I had: how do you see the actual first view of this? You have editor mode, and how do I go to my source mode?
Do you mean the editor mode or this list?
designer mode and editor mode. Do you have that captured?
What do you mean by designer mode in the dictionary?
So like this, the metadata and all the sources, right? We can view the entire JSON file.
Do you mean this the editor mode that shows the code, right?
That's what it is, right? Can you show me that?
Yeah. It will be viewed here in this box, in this model.
Okay.
And of course, we have the save and cancel button.
And can I see the save button for the dictionary?
Okay. Actually, it's not activated in here as long as there is no when user click on the editor mode and with no actions, it was still damned like this this view. But once the user add or type anything in the editor, the save button will be activated.
But where's the save button in the designer mode?
This is this one. It's below the editor or the coder.
Can you go to back to the designer mode?
The package designer?
The data dictionary. Where you have metadata and source.
Oh yeah. Do you name it designer? I thought that we have only the editor mode and the information. This is the information.
Okay. So what I wanted to say, we need to, like you have clone and you have delete, you need to add a save button here as well.
Do you want to add what?
A save button.
A save button. Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
And if we can make those clone and delete even like, what is it called? Do you think we should make them movable? Like if you do a scroll down, it should.
Of course, they will slide down whenever the user scrolling the page.
Okay, so it's like a floating button, right?
Yeah. Yes, it will be fixed in the screen and slide with the scroll.
Okay, so I think as long as you have save there, it's good. I would get rid of save in that other mode. Get rid of those save and
editor.
In the editor mode, don't include save and cancel. Only include save and cancel in this mode.
Okay, so it's the editor mode just to view the code, not editing it.
They can edit it, but if they want to save it, they need to save it from this screen itself.
Okay, but I think it's
how we have it today, right? The save is only done at the.
But here there's an action, and then if you close it, the user will think it's not saved.
I think we should do both.
Yeah.
I have a suggestion here. Can we have the sources and the editor mode as tabs? So the editor mode is just another tab beside the sources, or it will be like this.
Is it related to the sources or the whole the metadata and sources?
I think it is all of them.
What you can do if you make editor mode, if you go to editor mode, just
I'm missing your voice, Jody.
What I was trying to say, if you go to editor mode, keep the save, clone, and delete buttons that you have. That's your main screen. So when you go from editor to this mode, the save, delete, and clone and cancel will still be available.
Okay, so the current idea of having it on in the pop-up will not be will be different from what you are asking now.
Can you say it again?
So this will change the idea of having the editor mode in a pop-up.
this will change the idea of having error mode?
Yeah, inoperable.
Mm-hmm.
So whether we have it next to the metadata and sources as in another tab, or just keeping it without having the clone and delete button.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Mm.
But I would, as long as the so in that error mode, we should, if we do save and cancel, how would we do it? If we put it as a tab?
As in tab,
Yeah.
I think we will have the metadata and sources have save a different save and a cancel button.
So the tab is going to be added next to metadata, right?
Yeah. So it will
And then
be
when they
editor.
click on that metadata, it basically gives them the error mode.
The editor mode, but with different save and cancel. The save and cancel on metadata will be for the metadata and the sources. And in editor mode, we will have another save and cancel button. That will be recording the change in the editor only, not to
Yeah,
save
but
all
that change in the
the
editor
changes.
also reflect in the change in metadata and sources, meaning that if I change something in editor, and if I go back to this metadata screen, you would see those changes reflected here.
Of course, yeah.
I think, Sarah, can we have above the metadata, we have two tabs, something called editor mode and view mode, for example,
So
designer mode.
the save button will be above the tabs. So whether you edit in the metadata tab or the editor mode, it will save the changes here and there.
Yes, yes. Because actually the metadata and the sources are the same data from the file, from the editor mode.
Okay. Are you
What do
okay
you
with
think,
it?
Yuri?
I so Ahmed, you're saying just make that editor mode above the screen, right? Above metadata.
Above metadata, and have another tab called viewer mode or diviner mode. So you have
What was
viewer
the other
mode and
button?
diviner mode tab and
Design.
editor mode.
But you need only one button, right? And it can toggle between
Yes.
editor and designer. You don't need two
It will
buttons.
reflect. It will reflect on both.
Yes.
I think that will be
But
a good configuration.
what we're getting out of this is that the save button will be common, right? The save
Yes.
cancel button will be common. We don't want different save buttons, right? That's
Yes, it will be one for both.
okay. Very good. That's the main thing. Arunati, are we missing anything here? Do you see?
Nothing, I think this idea is better. The current one is also implemented that way, right?
Yes,
We have,
yes, yes.
so that's good.
Arunati, you coming in a little bit low, but last thing I heard is that the current data dictionary design is working like this.
Yeah. So I think this is pretty good.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Thank you.
And one more, there was an option called derived from, right? We don't have it here.
What I missed that.
Derived from, I think we had
Yeah,
one
we
more
need to add it
option.
here
Yeah,
in
derived from.
metadata.
The, now I got conflict in the elements I have, as long as the drive from is for the resource catalog.
Okay, so Sarah, I can send you one more example. You'll see the derive from is there. So
I got a screenshot for the demo we have in this week, and the drive from was related to the other form. I mean the resource catalog.
you mean the controller catalog? It
Yeah.
should be in both. It should be in both. It should not be just in controller controller catalog.
So I'll add the input for drift from.
Yeah, add the derived from here.
Is that okay? So shall I go to the resource catalog?
Yes. Let me ask Paula, Mike, Shobna, Shobda, and Swapnala, any questions? Okay. Let's move further. And can you change the name to controller catalog and not resource catalog?
Okay. Controller.
Yes, controller catalog.
Okay. Again, the same we have in the previous screen, but here I added the data type we have, the 4 types we have in here, like in this type, and of course I added it here above this the name, and
Okay.
again the tags and the last modification. Okay. Still the same as previous. So the view. Okay, sorry. No, I think this is the wrong one. This one. We only have in here the metadata and sources.
Okay. And one question: what is edit catalog? Is that the editor mode?
Yeah, I can change the name and the description and all inputs in here.
Oh, that gets you to edit mode. You're saying?
Yes. But let me ask about something. The sources in here, is it just to view the code or just
Definition. It's not sources. It will be just definition.
definition?
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm asking about something else. Is
Go
it
ahead.
just to view the code or to be an editor again?
It will be editor.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and change that to definition. And also, do you have a way to get to editor mode from here?
To editor mode?
To editor mode, yeah, where you can view the JSON file.
No, we didn't discuss that.
Okay, can we add that as well?
Okay. So what is the difference between the sources and the view, the editor mode?
The editor mode contains metadata and definitions together. It's one JSON file.
Okay. So it will be again then in another tab next to the metadata.
It's basically the same idea we have with the data dictionary, where you go to editor mode to update that JSON file, and then you
Yes.
can view it.
Okay.
And you also need save button. Do you have save button here somewhere?
No, as long as the save button will be when I click on the catalog, edit catalog, it will be replaced with the save and cancel.
Okay. Is the behavior the same for data dictionary, where we have
Yes.
like edit dictionary?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Okay. That's okay for now?
Yeah.
So let's go to move
So
to
just Sarah, you made the change from you're going to change source to definitions, right?
yes, and added another tab for the editor mode.
Excellent. Thank you.
This one is for the config management.
Mhm.
Okay. We have only one screen for this. We have here the list of the server's name and IP, and below it. But now I'm thinking about maybe adding this button above it, but
Yeah, it's probably better if you do it above it.
okay. But I think
Okay, and
now
the service name should probably be a text, not a drop down, because I don't think we'll have a list of this information. It will be just text information that you can add
so
or delete.
so I won't select it from a list. I'm just typing it by myself.
Say that again.
I will type it by myself, not selecting it from a list.
Right, right. Just make it for now a text. Later on, I think we'll make it a drop down. Right now, it's just something manually we enter.
Okay.
But this is really good. I think this is aligned to what we discussed with Shobda. I think you're working on the config management UI.
Is that for me? Sorry, I missed that.
I think Shobda is working on it, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this is good.
Okay.
So you'll move that up, right, Sarah?
Sorry.
You'll move that
Yes.
functionality up.
Yes. I'm just writing the notes I'm having.
Okay, very good.
Okay. So that's it for all the components we have so far. Hello, Yuri?
Very good. Can we go through the designer now? I wanted to see if we added. We need to add the whole auto mapping notion.
Okay. Okay.
So right now you don't have that captured, right?
The capture about what?
Like where do we add the velocity templates, right? So right now, let's say I want to add a velocity template or Ginger template.
What is the velocity?
When we add the velocity or Ginger template, we need to also allow the users to do like an auto mapping function itself.
I think we didn't discuss this before. I have no clue about it.
Let me see if I need to disconnect from my VPN. Give me 1 minute. Actually, I don't have VPN on. Why is it not going? There we go. Okay, so this is the initial designer that we did within AT&T, okay? And so what you will see now is basically how we created our blueprint. And let me show you. So right now here we have like artifact config template. We are allowed to change the instance, which we can do as well.
Sorry, Yuri, are you recording this? Hello?
Yeah, Sarah, say it again.
Are you recording this now?
It's recorded.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So what you can see is that when we upload a template, right, we can upload a template. The template is either a velocity template or a Ginger template, okay? When you load the velocity template, you put all your content of the velocity template in the screen, okay? When you put all that content, you basically have in the backend, if it's a velocity file, then it's a velocity editor. If it's a Ginger file, it's a Ginger editor. And what we allowed to do is basically load all the content, and then we're have a functionality called load config params. That load config params, what it does is basically extract all the parameter names and that start with $parentheses. Okay, and then it loads it in the panel below. So you can see this is some of the content we have. And it's gonna right now go and do load config params. And you see it's highlighting all the parameters that we are loading. And it's only loading the unique parameter. So if you have a parameter that repeats twice, you'll only see it one time in this tab. So once we load it, then we have an options for auto map to data dictionary. That's where we retrieve for this specific parameter name, what is the data dictionary parameter information. And for each of the data dictionary, we allow the users to also view all the sources, so they can select, do they want the capability of SDNC, MD-SAL, database, input, default, what are all the capabilities they want. So that's what this functionality allows us to do. And then in here, there's a drop-down on data dictionary source where they're allowed to select which source they want. Okay? And then we can also set defaults. The users can see what the data type is, entry schema, and they can also view the dependency mapping. Okay? Once they save this, right, save this file, what it will do, when it saved the file, it will now create like, I can say it will now create not just a velocity file, but we will also create a mapping file. Basically, we need to create this, you can see here, for each of our mappings that we do, that the user saves on, we have to create this mapping file. And this is the mapping file that we will load as part of the templates folder. And the VTL file is also part of the templates folder. Okay? So it could be VTL file or it could be even Ginger file. Regardless of VTL or Ginger, we can have if the user provides that mapping functionality and they save it, we will create this mapping file. Okay? And the other point I wanted to make is that the user can also create by themselves this mapping file. So we will probably need to provide a form where they can see all the mapping files when they click on the mapping file within the Designer UI itself. So let me first go back. Did you follow the explanation of, adding a VTL file or a Jinja file, loading the parameters? Any questions here on that aspect?
I'm trying to get the whole idea, but I think we can continue now.
Okay. So mainly if a VTL or Jinja file is added, we need a functionality that will allow us to load all the parameters, dynamic parameters, into a panel. Once that's loaded, and this is loading all the unique parameters. Once that's loaded, then we allow to automap to data dictionary, and then select, and the user selects what, for this service instance ID, what is the capability I'm using, or what is my default, right? So all that information that they do in the panel will be then captured as part of the mapping file definition. Okay? And the mapping file definition is going to be something that we store in our templates folder. And you can see we have VPKG or it could VTL, or it could be VPKG template for Jinja with a mapping file pair. All right, that's all I wanted.
I have a question here, Yuri. Do you think this will be part of the designer screen, or it will be a new screen? I think it's not tied to the workflow and the design of the workflow, but it is part of the package, so it can be new screen
So what I
inside
want
the
to say
package.
is part of designer work that they do to create the template and the mapping file. It's not part of the workflow action. It's not part of the components. But I can tell you is that when they create this VTL and mapping file, what they're doing with this file is then attaching it to a specific component.
Yes.
Look at the
Attaching
VLB
a
CDS
component.
definition, right? You have your workflow, you have your workflow actions, and you have your components. In your components, you will have a basically section where you can say what artifacts these components are going to be attached, are working on. Here,
Okay.
all artifacts. So
Okay.
we want to be able to, first of all, add templates, where we create mapping files, or just add mapping files, view the mapping files, and manage mapping files. So it should be, I believe what we will end up with is two screens, okay? One is where the two screens that allow you to basically manage the mapping file. So give me 1 second. So the first screen is going to be all about inserting either a velocity or Jinja-based Jinja template, okay? Within this screen, what we want to support is the tabular notion of, this whole notion of loading parameters and auto mapping. So you'll have something that says load params. And auto map. Okay? When the user does this
can you
action,
see the existing screen? Actually, we have done this, right, in the old screens.
we have done it in the old screen, but
Yeah.
the one point I want to emphasize, Arunti, is that I think we need to have two types of views. One where they manage velocity and Jinja templates, right?
Yes, yeah.
And the other one we have to also create where they manage just mapping files. And the mapping file design is going to be something like this. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can bring it up. So it should show you what are all the dependencies of the mapping in a graphical way. So this is the presentation. It's going to be 1 second modeling. No, not this one. This one. Okay. Okay. So the mapping file view will also give us this type of representation. It's a graphical representation of saying, well, here are the resources and what is its dependencies. If there are resources that don't have any links, they're like, I can say, orphan resources, then that graphical representation should be highlight that. Okay. So that's what I'm trying to get at, is that there's two types of views. One view is where you do this initial setup of loading your config programs and auto mapping, and Arunati is right, we did that. We didn't integrate in the backend, but we did the screen for that in the current master UI. And the other representation we want is this representation where it's showing the dependency mapping in the graphical view itself.
Okay, yeah, get that.
Okay, so those are the two things that we need to add. And Ahmed, you're right. We need to think about where we do template mappings, right? Template and mapping management, and then how we attach it. I think that will be two separate functionalities from the sound of what you were describing. So Sarah, can we, because this is very critical to, one more point I want to make is that you can create template and mappings. That's one combination, or you can just create mappings. So that's another combination. So, so we want to make sure that, that's why we want to make sure that not only do we want a mapping management screen that allows you to manage all the mappings and definitions, but we also want a screen that you can provide all the templates and then load it to the, to that tabular form, automap it to data dictionary, and then once it saves, it creates a mapping file itself. So, and that tabular form will basically manage the mapping file as well. So that those two functionalities we definitely need.
Are this mapping on the template just affect the current package, or I can use it anywhere in the packages, in the other packages?
So the template that we're loading is going to be part of only this package.
Okay, so it's just relating to the configuration of this package.
Right. That's why I say it's part of the designer, right?
And stored with that, right?
Say it again.
It will be stored with that, with the information.
It will be stored with the package. Yes, the entire package.
I cannot
if you look,
use it in another package.
It can be also stored in another package, but that's a separate package management. It's not part of this package. It's a separate instance of the package.
I'm just asking because I see it can be split like the data dictionary and controller management, as long as they still working for the sake of the package information. So why don't we split it and use it anywhere for any package? Just not to keep loading it for another package every time.
No, this is what's driving all the content that orchestration will happen. So we definitely want to make sure it's part of the package instance itself. It cannot be separated. The whole idea of doing this type of implementation is that all the things that the package needs is part of the package. It's its own application that is standalone. We don't want to separate some content out of the package.
So regarding the attributes of any component, let me ask about, because it's just to mix all the info I got it for you now. Are these serving the component attributes, the capabilities, and artifacts?
That's a very,
properties?
very, very good question. Okay. Yes, it will serve it, and I'll explain what I mean. So give me 1 second, see if I can get this template. So if you look at definitions folder, right, VLB CDS,
Yes.
things like get input, template brief, get input template prefix. Let me see, get attributes. Do I have? Okay. You see, we have get attributes.
Yes.
So we have basically, we're saying we're getting attributes of NF account collection, assignment params, NF params. Anything that's part of the artifacts of NF account collection, right? So let's take a look. So if you look at NF account collection has these two templates, right? NF params.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Be able to extract parameter like name, present, and just get attributes. So if I'm doing a get account and I'm saying NF account collection, assignment params, NF params, the next thing that I want to be able to do is I want the UI to be smart enough to tell me what are the available assignment properties that I can retrieve. Because this gives me everything, or I can say that I want only IP assignment.
Mm-hmm.
Something that is already part of the this artifact definition, right, in the mapping file. And that's how I know the UI is smart enough to tell me that these are the available assignment params that they can retrieve.
So I'm selecting from the template I just uploaded.
So it will allow you to select because I'm selecting NF account collection and it's going down the path of assignment params, then I'm selecting the properties of that assignment params with this specific template.
I mean that when I get to the input of get an attribute, the list will be shown the list I just uploaded from this template.
That's absolutely correct.
Yes,
that's absolutely.
That's the autocomplete will get from the list that just loaded.
That's correct. Even I can say when we have get inputs, right? Mm-hmm. I want the UI to be smart enough to know what are the inputs. So if for config assign, if you look at the workflow inputs, You see here?
Yes.
Hold on 1 second. Here, config assign has workflow inputs of resource resolution key, okay, and config assign properties, okay, yes. And that config assign properties has the properties of DT assignment properties. So what is DT assignment properties? Look at data type. The DT config assign properties includes VDNS and IP0. So I want to be able, when I do get input, I want to be able to say what inputs I can extract from input params and from my dynamic properties that are defined in the DT config assign properties.
So
but
I'm
this
seeing
gets into
here
like
that
more complex type of functionalities that we want to implement as well.
just like here we are building a database for all of these info.
We're rebuilding, you said a database?
Just like a database.
It's a reference. Trying to make sure that within a node and within that we're able to access all the attributes that we need as part of get properties or get inputs or get attributes itself.
Mm-hmm.
Advanced functionality we want to get there. I don't know if you can reflect that in the UI, but we can, we'll definitely discuss it that once we have the designer screens ready, and we'll, that'll be the next level of the implementation.
Okay, but one more thing. I can see that here I have to upload this before I can use it, of course. So it will be. I think it must be a step before the designer. I have to upload.
It can be like how we have external. What do you call it?
Yes, external properties. I
Spaces.
think.
You can do something like have a template management where users can come in and load all their templates and manage all their templates and create and mapping files.
So just like to be next to the configuration of the package.
It will be. You said the configuration of the package.
Just oh yeah, it's kind of a configuration of for this package.
It is. It is. It is.
And I think it's just it must be created or configured before just going to the designer. I cannot create the designer and.
I mean, the UI will be smarter off if this step is done first, right?
When I load the designer, all the components and elements and attributes will be uploaded and available there. But if I didn't get upload the template or the mapping, nothing will appear in the designer to select from.
Appear, but they will not be tied to, and the workflows will appear, but the components will not have any attachments to templates and mappings, right? One of the main things that we're doing is that we're attaching the components to the artifacts. Sometimes it's okay if you don't have, templates. You might have just a script. So it's not. I want to say it's not a mandatory thing to always have templates. You can also have scripts. Scripts are a separate folder that we have in the package.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat this again? I just got confused.
It's not mandatory to have templates. Okay, you can also you can either have templates or you can have scripts. Those are the two things that you can have.
So the package can be done without it.
A package can be downloaded without a template. You can just implement a script itself. Yes.
Can I deploy the package without it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we want to make it like an option the user does, loading templates and loading scripts. So I think template management and probably script management sounds like you want to add it as a separate functionality where the user can come in and just load it. And then as part of their components, they get to select what templates and what scripts they can access.
Mm-hmm.
Scripts has Ansible playbooks. It has Python scripts. Those are the three things you'll have. Templates have Jinja files, velocity files, or mappings.
Okay. Hello?
I will say let's maybe talk again. If you have an idea of how we want to do this, let's come back and design it together and move forward. I think what we have is very good. We just need to complete the picture with template management and script management, and then how we attach those into our components.
Yes, sure. And of course, I'll get back to the recorded video of this meeting.
Yes. I will. Once this is sent out, I'll try to download it. If it works, I'll send it out.
Yes, please.
Any other questions? Ahmed, Arunati, do you have anything for me?
Nothing really.
Arunati, I have a question for you.
Yes, Ahmed.
About using Redux.
Okay.
Okay. I would prefer that we use data service for the when we can. So we to prefer the data service other than Redux. I know that there will be some point that we will need Redux to use Redux, but for now we can go with data services when possible. Just Angular service.
I think it's better we start with Redux itself, Ahmed, from the start, because later, it'll be very difficult to manage all the data and then create a model in Redux and then move all the data there. So I
Mhm.
think from now we'll define the models so that going ahead, the complexity won't increase.
Okay. Okay. I will add Redux, and then we can take the just the beginning, and then we can take the what we need from the actions and reducers. Is this okay?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
And for the new functionality, for example, the homepage, we didn't have listing the packages and searching in the packages before. So I will try to use the data service and will not use Redux.
Sorry, Ahmed, I didn't get it. Can you repeat it?
Yes. For the new pages that we didn't have before, like listing the packages and the searching in the packages and the
Okay.
filtering the packages, I
Mm-hmm.
will try to use the data service. Okay, and I will not use Redux till it's a must to use Redux, but I will not use it from the beginning. I will use the data service. I will create a data service
Okay.
for the packages and try to use.
Any reason as to why we'll not use it for those features?
Okay. I prefer to have if I have some data that is only two or three components are interested with this data to have it in a service, so it's not in the global state. So Redux have a global state. So if I put the packages in the global state, then anyone else can take it by mistake. But if it is in data service and only the interested component use this data service as a provider, then it will not be shared between any other components. So I will try to minimize the scope of the data as much as I can. I know this will not work in all cases, but at least
Actually,
only
even in Linux, you can make the partition, right? Like the screen-wise partition, you can create a store for it. So there also you can maintain the whatever data you're saying, right? That way.
Uh, yes, but it's a global state at the end. It's something that anyone can just take it easy to register himself to this reducer and just take the data. But if I have a service that is only involved in these components, it is not shared by default. So
Okay, so this data which you're saying, it'll be only specific to that component, like
yes,
pagination will
yes.
have the same filter.
Yes. We are trying to this now
Okay.
in the listing the packages and searching, and we will
Okay.
push this. And maybe this is something that we can do for uh, the, the regular components. But if we have a component that need data that cannot, يعني, uh, for example, to need to take data from another component that away from it, then we can use something like Redux.
Okay.
Okay,
All
but
right then. Yeah.
you are correct. You are correct for the current business that is already implemented. We will not write it from the beginning, so we will use Redux. So I will add
Okay.
it here. Okay.
Sure. All right.
Okay. Thank you, Arti. I'm done, Yuri.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Any other questions?
No?
Very good. So I think we can meet on Monday. Arunati, Sarah, what do you guys think? Ahmed?
Uh, I will not be
Mon-
available this Monday.
I'll check my schedule.
Monday should be okay for me, Udit.
If I'm not available, I will, Shaban will attend, so he will give you our status.
Very good. I reschedule for Monday. So Arunji, from your side, you mainly need the POC to work, right, to get started?
Yes, Yuri. Yep.
All right, very good. Up on Monday then. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank
I'll
you.
send out the
Bye.
recording as soon as possible. Thank you.
Bye.